the internet, control of almost all human information. Consider Facebook. About half the country uses it as a primary news source. Millions and millions of people understand the world through Facebook. But Facebook is not a neutral host. It has a political agenda. Earlier this year, Facebook altered its algorithms for what news stories its users see, and the results, conclusively, have been devastating for conservatives online. Breitbart, the news site, has basically lost about 30% of its traffic since that happened. PragerU down 32%. Daily Caller is down. Rare closed its doors. Some reports say IJR is on the brink of collapse because of it. Fox, by the way, is down too. Meanwhile, purveyors of approved elite opinion, CNN, the New York Times, the Washington Post, they've been unaffected by this. What is this? Well, it's an act of ideological warfare, and it's far more worrying than anything that Cambridge Analytica has done or is accused of doing. Floyd Brown founded westernjournal.com as another site hit big by the changes at Facebook, and he joins us tonight. Floyd, this is not just a fever dream on the right that Facebook is somehow singling out, in effect, conservative sites. The numbers are really clear. How is this working?
Well, it's very clear, and I would say that Facebook has broken its trust with the end user. You know, one of the things I always liked about Facebook and admired about Facebook was that it was optimized to the end user. You have about 1.5 million followers on Facebook, Tucker, and the truth is as one of those followers, I expect to get news and information that you find interesting and you decide to share.
Right.
That's a social network. It's no longer a social network when Mark Zuckerberg and the other elites in Silicon Valley decide what you should get, the information that you should consume, and really decide from on high what news you should have.
How do we get to a place where one company, or along with Google, really two companies, control all online media, both political companies, and without any oversight at all by anybody, can just shut down sites they disagree with? How do we get to that place?
Well, I think that early on, Facebook did a fabulous job of letting people basically curate their own content. We all went online and we liked different people. We followed Donald Trump. We followed, people in the news that we liked. We followed publications that we liked. And so we were all of a sudden getting, great content that we all wanted to follow it and consume it. And so as a result of that, Facebook went through the roof. But now Facebook's having trouble with engagement because it's not optimized to the end user anymore. It's now optimized to the thought police. And that's a big change that's it's hurting Facebook, but it's also hurting discourse in America. And it also, Tucker, and this is, I think, what people need to understand on Capitol Hill, is it has big implications for upcoming elections and really the ability of America to make good decisions.
It's another form of social control. Of course. Floyd, thank you for that. I appreciate that. Well, there is still a widespread belief out there, particularly on the right, that business interests are basically conservative. Now, you could argue about whether that was ever true. It's certainly not true now. The opposite is true. The ideological gap between the leaders of America's most powerful corporations and, say, the Democratic Party is basically non-existent. They agree on everything. Now, having failed at the ballot box in 2016, the left is using other means to make the outcome of those elections irrelevant, in fact. Nowhere is this clear than on the subject of the Second Amendment. There is a constitutional right to bear arms. It's in the Bill of Rights. Number two, in most states, there's not a lot of enthusiasm for restricting the Second Amendment. Voters don't want it. Doesn't matter. The left is now colluding with large companies to roll back your rights to bear arms without any legislation at all, no public debate. They're just doing it. For example, on the website Reddit, the page for gun deals has been banned. Can't go there anymore. On YouTube, Google has banned the postings of videos that link to gun sellers or that simply promote the purchase of guns or accessories like magazines. They've also banned videos demonstrating how to attach gun accessories. Already popular YouTube firearm channels have been banned, driven off, or demonetized. You can't find them. You can't get the information anymore. But the most amazing example of this comes from Citibank. Now, that company announced today it will require all of its clients to block gun sales to those under 21 to bar the sale of bump stocks or high-capacity magazines. You may remember Citigroup because about 10 years ago, they got $45 billion of your dollars, taxpayer dollars, to get bailed out. That's why they still exist. Now they turn around and work to undermine the constitutional rights of the taxpayers who bailed them out. We called Citibank today to ask if they sent a representative over to explain how this works exactly, but they refused because they're cowards. This is happening over and over. More companies are participating, and they're taking action on more issues. The fear the government might remove your rights is becoming quaint. Big tech and big finance are doing it for them already. With no public debate, they just do it, and tough luck if you don't like it. Larry Keane, president of the National Shooting Sports Foundation, he joins us tonight. Larry, thanks a lot for coming on.
Oh, thanks for having us, Tucker.
This is one of those changes that I don't think anybody anticipated was coming, and it's not exactly clear what the parameters are. YouTube is banning what?
Well, they're banning any advertising or videos involving firearms. So it's a little unclear and it's very vague about the scope. So, for example, are they going to ban videos of teaching you how to reload ammunition, which, as you know, is very common in the United States, or firearm safety education videos that show people how to use firearms? So it's very troubling that YouTube would censor information. As a media entity, you would think that they would be a little bit more sensitive to the consequences of censorship. So very troubling what they're engaged in.
But more than just a media entity, I mean, this is not like Fox News, the Washington Post saying we're not going to cover something. I mean, YouTube is the public square, in effect. And they have a massive share of online videos. If they shut down a whole category, then it's kind of over, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, as you say, they're like the, it's the free market of ideas, except they have a monopolistic power, and they're putting a finger on the scale and deciding what information Americans are allowed to see. So they're suppressing First Amendment rights, and at the same time, they're suppressing the Second Amendment rights by preventing people from gathering or acquiring information about a completely lawful activity. And firearms are protected by the Constitution of the United States. So it's deeply troubling, and I think that the public is going to be very upset about it. And we're certainly going to be talking to members of Congress to have oversight hearings to find out exactly what these social media sites are doing and how they're abusing their monopolistic power on information to advance a liberal anti-gun agenda.
Republicans seem to think this is the example of the free market, but there's nothing free about this market at all. It's controlled. Larry, thank you. I appreciate that.
Pleasure to spend time with you. Thank you.
Antoine Seawright is founder and CEO of Blueprint Strategy, and he joins us tonight. Antoine, thanks for coming on. I'm sure you agree with the aims of Citibank and of YouTube and of Facebook, and I mean, you share the same politics as most CEOs of these companies. But does it feel strange for you as someone on the left to find yourself encouraging corporate power shutting down ordinary people? The left was never for that. Why are they for that now?
Well, before I'm on the left, before I'm anything political, Tucker, I'm a human being. And what I do know is I know what it's like to, I know, but let me finish. I know what it's like to have to bury someone who you love due to being killed in a church in Charleston, as I experienced almost 3 years ago. I also know what it feels like to see a do-nothing Congress and elected leaders across this country, both at the national and local level, not act after we've had these senseless shootings, mass shootings we've had in this country. So I appreciate the courage of the business community, business leaders who have stepped up to say, you know what, if Congress in Washington, D.C. does not want to do anything, if General Assemblies across the country do not want to do anything, then let's lead by example. Let's be on the right side of history and do something that the people we serve want to do. Because the truth of the matter is,
so you agree with our corporate masters that democracy is stupid, and why would you wait for actual voters to weigh in here?
Tucker, I am not going to use the language of corporate. I'm not going to use the language of corporate masters. Are you going to let me finish, or are you going to continue?
No, I'm just asking you. I guess you don't. We don't believe in democracy anymore.
You have to let me. Are you going to let me finish, or are you going to continue to talk loud and think that that's like the thing to do? Here's the bottom line. I appreciate these people for having courage, stepping up to the plate, and acting on something that the people who occupy their businesses want. 70% of this people in this country, Democrat and Republican, want something done in the name of gun reform.
Let me ask you a question. All right, I let you hold on. Antoine, I'm going to. Okay, so now you're happy now that the unelected functionaries at the world's largest companies happen to agree with you. They're doing something that you want. But what if they took a position that you're not in favor of? What if they said, I don't know, pick something. Black Lives Matter is bad. We're not going to let any more Black Lives Matter videos on YouTube. We're not, Citibank won't process any payment to Black Lives Matter. You'd say, well, wait a second. You control all credit cards. You control all videos, and you shut this down. Maybe you might feel differently. Can you see why there's perhaps a flip side to this?
Of course I can, and that has happened in many instances. But here's the beauty about living in the United States of America. We have the ability to disagree with people who may not agree with us. And the truth be told, if you don't agree with YouTube, if you do not agree with Dick's Sporting Goods or Walmart or any of these corporations who have acted in this manner of trying to reduce another incident from happening, then don't shop with them. Do not use their products. Don't buy them. That's the answer.
Let me ask you, so if I don't agree with Google, which has a complete monopoly over all human information, it has a 90% monopoly on search, for example. So everything we know basically comes from Google. If I don't agree with them, I don't really have a lot of places to go. I mean, nothing against DuckDuckGo. As a liberal, does this level of corporate power, this concentration of power in the hands of a very small number of rich people, that doesn't bother you at all?
Well, I'm not a liberal. I think I'm Antoine C. Wright, a person who has a political opinion, number one.
Does it bother you?
Number two, I agree with corporations who are stepping up to the plate, answering the call that some of our elected officials do not have the courage to do.
Could there be a downside to settling problems when the richest people in the world get together and say, we're going to impose this on a society? That's better than having elected officials vote to do something through the democratic process? Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying to you, Tucker, is the fact that we are 3 years from Charleston, 6 months from Vegas, a month or so from Parkland, and I don't know how long from some of the other mass shootings we've had, and nothing has been done in the name of trying to change the conversation. So therefore, Tucker, you know as well as I know that if a small group of people get together, that number will grow and something can be done. And I think that's what's happening.
When a small group of billionaires decides to shut down speech,
corporations are going to be on the right side of history.
Okay, yeah, we'll see. Antoine, thank you. I appreciate it.
How about reasonable people, Tucker?
This is a Fox News alert. White House National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster is out of a job. He'll be replaced by former UN Ambassador John Bolton. Chief White House Correspondent John Roberts is here with the details on that. Hey, John.
Tucker, this has been described as the worst-kept secret in Washington. We knew that it was coming at some point. We didn't know it would be today. The president tweeting at about 6:30 this evening, pleased to announce that effective April 9th, Ambassador John Bolton will be my new national security advisor. I'm very thankful for the service of General H.R. McMaster, who's done an outstanding job and will always remain my friend. There will be an official contact handover on April the 9th. This is described to me as a mutual parting of the ways. The president and H.R. McMaster never really gelled, but H.R. McMaster very gracious in announcing that he'd be leaving the White House in a statement saying, I'm thankful to President Donald J. Trump for the opportunity to serve him and our nation as national security advisor. I'm grateful for the friendship and support of the members of the National Security Council who work together to provide the president with the best options to protect and advance our national interests. This came together very quickly this afternoon. John Bolton was here for a meeting with the president in the Oval Office. It was one of a number of Oval Office meetings he's had in recent weeks. The president had been talking to him about the job, but they sealed the deal this afternoon. The speed with which it happened, though, surprised even Ambassador Bolton, who said that he was taken quite by shock by the fact that the president tweeted out about 6:30 tonight that he had the job. Bolton, of course, known for very strong views on foreign policy, and said that he will bring those views with him to the White House in an interview earlier on the story with Martha McCallum. Listen here.
I have my views. I'm sure I'll have a chance to articulate them to the president. Some people don't like people who have substantive views. They're more process-oriented.
Now, we were told last week that McMaster might be out by last Friday, but then senior White House officials insisted he wasn't going anywhere. And then suddenly, Tucker, McMaster is on the way out and John Bolton is on the way in. Things move very quickly around here.
Yes, they do. Thanks for that, John. Appreciate it. You might remember that Bolton was on this program, too, just a couple of weeks ago. Here's part of what happened.
But he turned it over to Barack Obama, and it fell apart subsequently. And the point I think you need to understand is that life is complicated in the Middle East. And when you say, well, the overthrow of Saddam Hussein was a mistake, is simplistic.
I would argue that I'm the one who understands how complicated it is, but just my view.
It's your long experience in foreign policy, I know.
Better record than yours, I would say. But thank you, Ambassador. Good to see you.
Sure.
John Bolton, National Security Advisor. New footage from the lead up to the shooting in Las Vegas 6 months ago. What does it show? Has it been edited in a way that we should know about? And why are we only seeing it now? That story next. Nearly 6 months after the Las Vegas massacre, the deadliest in modern history, new evidence is still trickling out about what happened and why. Surveillance footage of Stephen Paddock at the Mandalay Bay Hotel in the week leading up to the attack came out today. You're seeing it on your screen. We first see Paddock on September 25th checking into the hotel. Over the next few days, he doesn't appear to be preparing for anything, much less a killing spree. He gambles on the casino floor, at several different video poker machines. He seems like a loner and is not joined by anybody else, at least on these videos. Otherwise, he's unremarkable. Throughout the week, Paddock leaves the hotel several times, apparently to go to his house. When he returns, he brings bags with him, 21 bags in total, carrying the guns and ammunition he would later use to kill 58 people. Hotel bellhops assist Paddock with his bags, putting them on carts and escorting him to the elevator where he tips them. Paddock often makes small talk with employees as he waits for the elevator to arrive. The very last time we see Paddock on these videos is 12:30 on October 1st, bringing 2 more bags up to his room. Less than 10 hours later, the massacre begins. A lot of questions about this, beginning with why now and what does it mean? Catherine Lombardo is an attorney representing the victims of Las Vegas. Doug Papa is a former casino security guard and joins us as well. Catherine, first to you. You're involved in a major, maybe the major lawsuit surrounding this massacre. You haven't seen these videos until today. Why is that? That's right. How have they been edited? And is there evidence that anyone else was ever in that hotel room with Paddock?
Why today? I think it's a PR stunt. It is pretty shocking that they released it to the New York Times and not to us, the lawyers, who have been asking for this video and these videos. Remember, there are over 700 hours of video. Why did they just choose these 5 minutes? Where's the rest of the video? Why now? I'm so concerned for my clients because my clients, who are all victims, are suffering. They're suffering still today from PTSD and the symptoms that come along with that. For them to see this without warning, I'm just worried for my clients. But regarding the video shows something. It's exactly what we've been saying happened all along for the last 5 months. It is shocking to see how confident and casual the shooter, Paddock, was to ask the valet and the bellhops to help him unload his arsenal of 21 bags, haul that arsenal of weapons and bullets up to his 32nd floor. He knew that the security at the Mandalay Bay, there was no security. And in today's day and age, we already know that in Las Vegas, the casino's security teams are trained in all kinds of things to detect the indicators of what to look for.
Right. So, Doug, you just heard Catherine say she believes there are about 700 hours of video with Paddock contained in them. This is a 5-minute selection, so there's context missing. But from what we have now, what conclusions do you draw?
Well, the video was released by MGM. It was not released by the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. And they made a statement today saying that they did not release it, that the video was owned by the MGM, and that's who released it. It corroborates a little bit what's in the 81-page police preliminary report that was released a couple of months ago, where they referenced the video that they looked at but never released. And they are saying that they see Paddock at different times bringing up about 21, 22 suitcases into the room that they allege contained the weapons and the ammunition. That's all well and fine. I'm more concerned right now, what I want to look at as a former director of security and investigator and police officer, is I want to look at the lock interrogation reports for both rooms 32-135 and 32-134. Because if you remember, in the police preliminary report, they said that at 21:36 hours, which is 9:36 on October 1st, the deadbolt was engaged to room 135, and then 10 minutes later at 21:46, 9:46, the deadbolt was engaged on room 134. But it doesn't say anything else reference the lock interrogations in that report, other than they referenced that they did use lock interrogations. So my point being is this, okay? If the deadbolts were on those doors 15 minutes before he opened fire, And the lock interrogation reports, when we get them, will show whether those deadbolts were disengaged from the door and or if the door was opened after or during the shooting and prior to the police strike team going into the room. If the lock interrogation reports, indeed, I believe it's going to show that the deadbolts were not disengaged in the room, both of those room doors, then nobody could have exited that room door in that 1 hour period where the Metro Police were out in the stairwell before they went into the room.
That is the key question. Catherine, we're almost out of time. Hit me with it quickly, please.
Yeah. I want to add to that. MGM released this to New York Times. What does that tell us? It tells us that they can release the evidence that we've been asking for over 5 months. We have asked for it. They haven't given it to us. Why are they doing this? Just a 5-minute clip today. It tells us they have so much more that we've been asking for. My clients want answers.
And there's a public interest in it as well. We share that interest. Thank you both.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for doing this.
Republicans $1.3 trillion spending bill today intended to prevent a government shutdown. The Senate will likely follow suit. It's being shepherded by Republicans, but you would be forgiven for not knowing that. The bill caps ICE agents we can hire and the number of illegal aliens ICE can detain. A border wall is out of the picture. It gives hundreds of millions to Planned Parenthood. It funds sanctuary cities. It ups the EPA's budget by more than $750 million. It's not something Republicans said they were for. Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky joins us now. Senator, we asked over a dozen Republicans who voted for this to come on. None would do it. The people who wrote this, were they here for the 2016 election?
You know, I'm kind of old school. I think you ought to read the bills, before we vote on them. This is a 2,200-page bill. We got it last night at midnight. I've been working all day diligently through the bill, and I'm up to page 600. But, I've still got quite a bit of ways to go to read the bill. As far as the content of the bill, this could have been written by President Obama and liberal Democrats. When I ran in 2010, when we had that Tea Party tidal wave, we were opposed to President Obama's spending, and we were opposed to President Obama's trillion-dollar deficits. This bill will give us a trillion-dollar deficit this year.
Paul Ryan is, of course, ultimately responsible for this as the head Republican in the House. I mean, these are his priorities, I assume, but they're so out of whack with the priorities of the party. How?
I think this is why people are so upset with politics, because when the Republicans are out of power, when they're in the minority, they are the conservative party. But then when they get in the majority, there is no conservative party. Democrats don't care about spending any of the time. Republicans seem to care about it when they're criticizing Democrats. But now that Republicans are in charge, Republicans are like, Katie, bar the door. You talked about border security. I'm flipping through the pages today reading the bill. I find out there is money for border security in Tunisia, in Jordan. We have border security money in the Middle East, but not border security money for the U.S.
So I'm just concluding that the people who run the Republican Party in the House anyway just don't want increased border security.
No, what it is this. It's an unholy alliance. The unholy alliance between Republicans and Democrats is this. Republicans are not fiscally conservative on the military. They want unlimited spending on the military.
Right.
Democrats say, we'll give it to you. We're not really opposed to it. We'll give you the military spending if you give us the domestic spending. So really the unholy alliance, the unholy compromise has been going on for decades is we really actually have too much compromise in Washington. They're always compromising to raise spending and increase the debt.
Really quick, are you going to stop this? You're going to shut down the government over this?
It's never been my goal to shut down government, but my goal is to say that we should be for balanced budgets, limited spending, less debt, and we should be for reading the bills. So I'll continue to advocate that. Whether they can roll over me, I'm in the minority. There'll be about 10 Republicans that vote, maybe 15 Republicans vote no on this in the Senate, maybe a handful of Democrats. Yeah. But they will win. The majority will win. But it's Republicans and Democrats joining hands together to blow a hole in the debt.
I know you're going back up the hill. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Senator. Instead of getting his campaign promises fulfilled by Congress, the president has been suggesting he could beat up Joe Biden. Mark Stein loves a good boxing match. Now, there are a lot of ways to respond to a charge like that. I worked for Jeff Zucker once, actually. We could spend the rest of this hour reminiscing about it. But instead, let's consider the humor in this. State-run TV? Now, we know that on some level, all criticism is self-criticism. You accuse others of being what you secretly know you are. But even by the usual standards of Freudian projection, Jeff Zucker has made an amazing claim. As it happens, just today, probably as Zucker was speaking, a controlling interest in CNN Turk, that's CNN's cable station in Turkey, was sold to an arm of the regime there. Jeff Zucker's network is now, in effect, in business with the authoritarian, Islamist, and highly anti-American Erdogan government. In Turkey, where it actually matters, CNN is literally state-run TV. Zucker didn't mention that in his remarks today, weirdly. Not that much will change for CNN Turk. Zucker's station already lovingly broadcasts every Erdogan speech in its entirety. It denies a platform to Turkey's besieged opposition parties. The channel has long trafficked in lunatic and anti-American conspiracy theories. CNN Turk once accused an American professor, with no evidence at all, of helping to orchestrate a failed 2016 coup against Erdogan. That's a claim that, of course, echoes one of the Turkish government's most emphatic talking points. CNN Turk, quote, amplifies the hateful and xenophobic narrative of the Erdogan regime, says one independent Turkish journalist. If the regime demands it, sometimes Jeff Zucker's state TV channel doesn't cover the news at all. For example, in 2013, more than 8,000 pro-democracy protesters were injured protesting the Erdogan government. Jeff Zucker's channel ignored the whole thing. CNN Turk ran a documentary on penguins instead. So how much is Jeff Zucker making in exchange for airing propaganda on behalf of a hostile foreign power? We put in a couple of calls to CNN to find out. They haven't gotten back to us yet, weirdly. But Turkey is not the only country where CNN is state TV. Jeff Zucker runs a sleazy little sideline selling airtime to repressive governments in a lot of places around the world. For example, 2 years ago, Zucker announced CNN Philippines. Quote, we are confident the Filipino audience is going to embrace CNN Philippines, Zucker said at the time. What Jeff Zucker didn't say is that CNN Philippines is in part controlled by the government of Rodrigo Duterte, whose death squads have killed tens of thousands of Filipinos. That's Jeff Zucker's business partner. We could go on and on. What's amazing is that few Americans know about any of this. Jeff Zucker has escaped the scrutiny of, say, RT, the cable channel that late last year was forced to register as an agent of a foreign government. Yet Jeff Zucker is also an agent of foreign governments. He takes their money, he runs their propaganda, he hides their internal repression, and runs penguin videos instead. Where else is Jeff Zucker doing this? Good question. Maybe we could use a congressional hearing or two to find out. Well, an update now on the former Vice President Joe Biden. He wasn't willing to run against Trump in 2016, but now he says he'd be happy to face the president in the ring during an appearance at the University of Miami. Biden said he'd be able to beat up Trump. Watch.
When a guy who ended up becoming our national leader said, I can grab a woman anywhere and she likes it, and then said, I didn't make a mistake, but they asked me, would I like to debate this gentleman? And I said, no. I said, if we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him. I've been in a lot of locker rooms my whole life, and a pretty damn good athlete. Any guy who talked that way was usually the fattest, ugliest SOB in the room.
He's a tough man, that Joe Biden. Ooh. Well, this morning, Trump tweeted this in response. Crazy Joe Biden is trying to act like a tough guy. Actually, he is weak, both mentally and physically, and yet he threatens me for the second time with physical assault. He doesn't know me, but he would go down fast and hard, crying all the way. Don't threaten people. Joe, the president tweeted that. Author and columnist Mark Stein, a connoisseur of pugilism, joins us tonight. So, Mark, your job is to call this fight. What do you say?
I think on balance, I'd probably give it to Trump, although Joe Biden is not to be underestimated. I understand that he swims naked in front of his female Secret Service agents most mornings, which is not something many 75-year-old men, other than Charlie Rose over at PBS, would be willing to do. So he's obviously fairly confident of his physique. I don't actually understand why he said, oh, if I was still in high school, I'd beat him up, because to my understanding of these things, Tucker, if you're defending a lady's honor isn't generally something one associates with high school. It's something one would do after high school as a grown man. So I'm actually in favor of physical violence between individuals. I'm in favor of dueling as an alternative. No, I'm being serious here. I've been in some stuck in some stupid libel suit in the District of Columbia for 6 years. I'd much rather have had pistols at dawn over that. And I think if these two wanted to have a sword fight, I would be in favor of the reintroduction of dueling. I'm in favor favor of chivalry, but what Joe Biden teaches us, I think, is if one is going to go in for male braggadocio, Trump is actually harder to do than most people think. It requires a lighter touch. And there's something rather heavy-handed about all his, I've been in more locker rooms, I've been around more guys, more around ugly, mean, ugly. So it requires that kind of male, take it from an effete foreigner, that kind of male butchness requires a lighter touch.
Well, especially when that's like the one thing that Trump is indisputably great. He's a Viking, so it's like you're not going to beat him at that. But since when is it okay for sensitive, evolved liberals like Joe Biden to all of a sudden be threatening to beat people up?
Well, I think this is what's fascinating. He's complaining about Trump because Trump, you can grab a woman by the whatever, and and the alternative to that, as Joe Biden sees it, is I hate guys who like to grab women. I like to beat guys up who like to grab women. And I noticed that on the liberal websites and Salon and all those guys, they're all saying, oh gosh, why isn't there some beta male pajama boy around when you need one? They're all actually anti-Biden for what he thinks of as his chivalrous act of beating up Donald Trump. So I think the liberals are actually hopelessly confused on all this.
The fact that you call it Salon just made my night, no matter what. I'm calling it that from now on.
I'm sorry about that. I've just given I've been in locker rooms, Tucker. Bring it on. I'll rip your lungs out. That's how gentlemanly I am.
The great Mark Steyn. Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Tucker.
Fox is really following the news, and who's just reading a teleprompter? Just kidding. I don't think our reporters have teleprompters. Only I do. Our defending champion, Fox News national correspondent Lauren Blanchard, who unseated the great Ed Henry last week unceremoniously. Her challenger tonight, another national correspondent and a perennial contestant on this show, Peter Doocy. Welcome back.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
And welcome back to you, our defending champion.
I appreciate
it. You know the rules, but for our audience at home who may not, hands on buzzers. I ask the questions. The first one to buzz in gets to answer. You have to wait until I finish asking it in order to buzz in. Each correct answer is worth 1 point. If you get it wrong, we subtract a point. We don't want to, but we have to. Best of 5 wins. You ready?
Let's do that.
If I'm not ready, can I have a few minutes?
No, you can't phone a friend either. First question. This week, Sex in the City actress Cynthia Nixon threw her hat into the ring to run for which national office? Peter Doocy.
That would be the governor of New York.
They have a governor. You sure?
It's one of the Cuomos for now.
For now. The 9 p.m. guy in CNN. Roll tape. Is it Governor of New York?
The actress is hoping to add New York governor to her resume.
Together, we can win this fight.
On Monday, the Tony, Emmy, and Grammy winner announced she would challenge the incumbent Democrat, Andrew Cuomo.
Tony, Emmy, and Grammy.
Together we can win this fight. Peter Doocy, following the news out of New York. All right, congratulations. Question 2. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Even Democrats getting fed up with the mainstream press coverage of Russia, which is nonstop. Which filmmaker just complained that the Russia story is, quote, a shiny key to distract us? Lauren Blanchard.
That is Michael Moore.
Michael Moore says something true. Is it Michael Moore?
Even some of the networks that we watch were, Russia, turn the channel, Russia. And I'm not saying that's not important.
You thought about Stormy Daniels.
Yeah, okay. All the shiny keys to distract us. That's what goes on in the media.
Ooh, says Michael Moore. Speaking of Russia, a stalemate between you, 1 each.
Is he promoting something?
I don't know if he's promoting something, but he's,
he's always with Bernie.
Even a broken filmmaker tells the truth once in a while. Question 3. Which Hollywood actor is being mocked mercilessly online for covering a third of his physical being with a huge tattoo? Peter Doocy!
It's Ben Affleck.
I don't believe you. He seems too sensible. Is it Ben Affleck?
Ben Affleck, a lot of people talking about Ben Affleck. Ben Affleck's getting teased online after a recent photo revealed that he has a giant back tattoo. You may have seen this. Take a look.
It's just like Tucker's. That's how I feel about it.
A giant phoenix that covers his entire back. Check out this new tattoo that his friend Matt Damon just got. He's showing his support for
That's good. I was in the Japanese mafia, though, so that's my experience.
I'd be curious what that's going to look like in a couple of years.
I'm sure even better, as they usually do. Question 4. At Buckingham Palace this weekend, 77-year-old Richard Starkey was officially knighted by Prince William. Starkey is better known to the world by which stage name? Lauren Blanchard.
Is it Ringo Starr of the Beatles?
Is it Ringo Starr of the Beatles, ladies and gentlemen? To the tape we go.
Call him Sir Ringo. Prince William today knighted former Beatles drummer Ringo Starr. He received the honor under his real name, Sir Richard Starkey. Bandmate Sir Paul McCartney was knighted in 1997.
Holy smokes. Correct answer, which brings us to sudden death. 2-2. Peter Ducey, Lauren Blanchard, defending champion, decided by this question, number 5. Which kind of animal was recently seen walking on 2 feet at a zoo in Philadelphia because it is afraid to get its hands dirty? Peter Ducey.
It is, and I sympathize with this as someone who has Purell often in his jacket pocket. It's a gorilla.
A gorilla?
Yeah.
I thought they walked on their hands.
It's cold and flu season, Tucker. It's not to be messed around with.
Let's roll the tape. Is it a gorilla?
Lewis, a male gorilla at the Philadelphia Zoo, likes to keep it very clean. He's a bachelor, baby. He's known for walking upright like a human, as you can see in the video. And he's also a fast walker, which I like. And he loves cleanliness.
Short.
I just would really like to meet a man like this, where he doesn't want to walk. He won't put his hands.
Yeah, he doesn't want to put his hands in the mud.
Exactly. Could you imagine this?
Did you know the answer to that?
I did.
But the lightning-fast, cat-like reflexes of Peter Ducey were too much.
I came into the studio this morning during America's Newsroom, and I've just been pressing the button all day.
Incredible. Well, you win the coveted Eric Wemple mug, which commemorates his brief but memorable appearance on our show. Congratulations, Peter Ducey, this week's winner.
Mom and Dad, I did it!
I hope you'll come back. That's it for Final Exam this week. Pay attention to the news every week. Tune in Thursday nights to see what happens in the video.
Tucker, this is really disturbing video that they released. This is the Uber accident that happened in Arizona. You can see the driver here behind the wheel, clearly not in control of the car. The computer automation is in control of the car, and it slams into this woman who is walking a bicycle across the street. And you can see the horrific look on her face when she realizes, oh my gosh, I haven't been paying attention. And it's very troubling. And I'm not an anti-technology person, but I think in the case of driverless cars, they've gone too fast into, hey, everybody, just take your hands off the wheel. Everything's going to be fine. I think there is definitely, I mean, that right there, you see that moment of impact, and you know what a human would do in that situation is be paying attention and slam on the brakes. And in this instance, the driver is clearly distracted by something going on. You can't see if she's looking at her phone, is she watching a movie, or is she looking at the, adjusting the radio or what have you. But the driverless car situation, I think they need to take smaller steps on this stuff, and they need to roll these features out more slowly so that people get more comfortable with the concept of a car that's going to help you be a better driver, as opposed to.
What's so striking is this is such a simple meeting. I mean, it comes right up. The driverless cars are supposed to be able to sense that, I thought.
Right, exactly. They're supposed to have all kinds of different radar that detect things at night and see things that you can't see with the naked eye. And in this instance, that clearly failed. And the outcome was a fatal accident.
I think we need to put the brakes on for sure. Brett, thanks a lot for that report.
Thanks,
I appreciate it. Well, an hour has gone by awfully fast. There's a lot going on in this country, and we're grateful that you spend an hour with us. Tune in every night at 8 to the show that's the sworn enemy of lying, pomposity, smugness, and groupthink, especially groupthink, which is everywhere. Avoid it at all costs. Have a great night from Washington. Sean Hannity is right now. Hey, Sean.
All right, Tucker, that video you just showed was really scary. I didn't see this person crossing till the last second. Very scary.
Neither did they.
All right, good show, Tucker. Thank you. And welcome to Hannity. We have so much breaking news tonight. And the head of fake news CNN, the soon-to-be scandal-plagued Jeff Zucker. Okay, you want to take pot shots at Fox News, Jeff? Let's go. We're going to unveil our new nickname for the Bleep Hole Network. Plus, we're going to call out the hypocrisy of the media's new Stormy Daniels 24/7, 365 obsession. The same people that ignored Bill Clinton's accusers for decades Oh, and by the way, in those cases, it wasn't always consensual, was it? And also breaking right now, H.R. McMaster is out and John Bolton is in. Good news as national security advisor. Also new tonight, President Trump's lead lawyer in the Russia witch hunt is now stepping aside. In an apparent move, it means the president, he is getting ready to fight back and fight back hard against this corrupt special counsel. Our investigation into the investigators continues tonight. And the House Judiciary Committee Chairman, Bob Goodlatte, he has now issued a subpoena for the DOJ to send over documents on the rigged Clinton email investigation, on FISA abuses, Andrew McCabe's firing, and Comey's firing. Now, the House Intel Committee has also announced their Russia probe is over and votes to publicly release the GOP's final report. There's new information in that. This report finds no evidence of Trump-Russia collusion. It exposes deep state leaking, FISA abuse, and blasts the former director of national security, James Clapper, for giving inconsistent testimony, just like McCabe, about contacts with the media. Is that lying under oath? Also, a stunning investigative report tonight from Sarah Carter, how the special counsel, Robert Mueller, and his top prosecutor, you know, the guy that they say is the pit bull for Mr. Mueller, Andrew Weissman, they're directly tied to two of the biggest scandals in FBI history. The rest of the media is ignoring this. And also an exclusive tonight. You've heard about the Uranium One informant. He is now speaking on camera right here tonight for the first time about being interviewed by the FBI as part of an investigation into the Clinton Foundation. Yeah, there's a real investigation going on. The media is talking about Stormy. Now, The Hill's John Solomon has that exclusive report and those details, that and so much more in our breaking news opening monologue. All right, but we begin tonight with more fake news from CNN. This time it is spewing from the lips of the Clinton News Network president. His name is Jeff Zucker. And according to The Hollywood Reporter, Zucker